Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome once again to the Demonland podcast. My name is Andy, and with me, again, my co-host, Grapeviney. Good evening. Oh,
Demonland.
Well, wait, you might want to say that again. For some reason, I had your channel on mute, so I apologise for that.
There's probably plenty of listeners that wish it would stay that way, but good evening, Andy, and good evening to the Demonlanders out there.
Yes, and once again, we're happy little campers. We had a pretty impressive win on the weekend, and whenever we have a win, it makes me happy, and I'm sure it makes you and the rest of Demonland happy.
Yeah, arguably the best win in a long, long time. But we've had a few good wins in recent years. Geelong at Cardinia Park in 2015, the Hawthorn game last year, and the Adelaide game this year. But this is probably the best four-quarter effort that we've seen. Going back to perhaps the Danaher years. The Geelong game was a four-quarter effort, that win out at Cardinia Park, but this was at a higher level of intensity and pressure, and I thought, we just acquitted ourselves superbly.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly this year it was our first four-quarter effort. Even the Adelaide game, I don't think we played a full four quarters. We had a period in the second quarter where we went to sleep for about 15 minutes. But this game was 4 quarters of the Demons awake, and we showed what we can do to a quality opposition. Admittedly, they've had a bit of a form slump, but they're still pretty much the premiership team pretty much intact.
Yeah, look, it's hard to play 4 quarters every week. Yep. Very few sides are doing it. We're seeing seeing form fluctuations within games and then from week to week. So, look, it's good that we finally saw it. It's taken a little, it's been a little while coming. And hopefully we're just going to see sort of more and more of that consistency because clearly when we bring our A game, we are very, very difficult opposition to play against.
Well, for us, that four-quarter effort, it was a big thing for us to do that because this year, not playing 4 quarters and going to sleep for half a quarter or a quarter has cost us games. At the end of the day, we've lost 2, 3, 4 games because we haven't been able to bring our A game, as you said, to every quarter, and we really did this week. And we showed when we do that. It's a very difficult brand of football. The coach talks about a brand of football, and it's a very difficult brand for oppositions to beat.
The brand is clearly, we know what it is, don't we? We've seen it on display in sort of most games this year, and it's a great brand. It's really attractive footy. Everyone loves bone-crunching tackles, desperate smothers, which we saw in abundance, particularly early against the Dogs, and that fast, reflexive slingshot footy when you get the ball on the break or from a turnover. Exciting times to bastardise a phrase from the Prime Minister. It's never been a more exciting time to be a Demon supporter.
It's a great time to be alive, certainly. We're going to talk more about this game, most definitely. And we do have shortly, we'll be taking us in about 5 minutes, taking a break, bringing on our very special guest, Cheer Squad and Demon Army leader, Sophie Gaylor. Do I have her name right?
Yep.
And we'll be bringing her on. It'll be great to talk to her, sort of get the perspective from the Cheer Squad, sort of the people that are there week in, week out, through thick and thin. So that'd be nice to talk to.
Yeah, I'm curious to ask her about, and I mean this seriously, about how hard it was during those dark years. Because the Cheer Squad needs to keep up the front. They have to still pretend that, that everything's okay, and they've got to keep smiling to some extent. So,
they can't leave at three-quarter time.
And they can't leave at three-quarter time. So, and look, also curious just to see how much work goes on behind the scenes, because we obviously see the front end of it, And you and I spent a bit of time in the cheer squad a number of years ago, and we only did the glamorous things, such as bringing the banner out onto the ground, but a lot of work goes on during the week, and probably especially so in a match interstate like we do this week. So looking forward to having Soph on. But I was going to send you an Instagram message just before we came on with a selfie and tag you in and just say, "Are you ready, Andy Demonland?" And because it obviously worked for Tommy Bug on the weekend, so I thought, I'll try and rattle your cage and just throw you off your game a little bit before we come on air.
Well, I didn't actually look at Instagram before that, and so you would have failed in your attempts. But yeah, I was going to bring this up before we bring in Sophie. Social media wars. What do you think of that? Storming a teacup or, psychological warfare?
I didn't... Look, it was a big storm in a teacup, but I didn't like it when I saw it. I saw it pre-game on the way to the ground, and I thought it was stupid. And it can only have... You can't get anything positive out of that. It can only bounce back on you. Look, to Tommy's credit, he played a great game. He certainly backed up his words with actions, but, he would have looked like a dill had we lost. He would have looked like a dill if he'd played poorly, or particularly if Johannesson had had a great game. Now, look, none of that happened in the end, but I just don't know what's to be gained out of it. I like the fact, and I agree with the fact that it's good to see personality and not have robots, but I just think this can bounce back on you. It can cause motivation in the other mob that might not otherwise be there. So why even risk the 1% chance that it might bounce back on you?
Yeah, I sort of agree. I think there's more to lose from it than to gain. However, it seemed fill-in captain Easton Wood seemed to be affected the most by it, and he sort of came out all guns blazing. And I don't know if he sort of had a bit of a shocker of a game. He was dropping marks. He was, he was getting angry. He gave away an extra goal. He got sucked in by it, it seems. So
they all got sucked in, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, they ended up, as you say, giving away the free kick and the goal. So, Tommy Bug 1, Western Bulldogs 0.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably I thought it was funny listening to Simon Goodwin during his press conference when he was asked about it, and he said, it's all social media is all new.
Well, it's foreign to them. He sort of said he doesn't understand it. And
I just thought, well, thank God he's up to date on other things because social media has been around for a little while, Goody. So perhaps he can get an account himself, and that way maybe keep an eye on the boys. But I noticed in Jack Watts's post-match interview, he said that they got, quote unquote, a little talking to after the game. So it's clear that the coaching, the football department didn't like it either.
Yeah. Look, I'd prefer that our football does the talking. Psychological warfare, I don't think we need to do it. I think let's let our football do the talking. And I don't think that we won because of that tweet or Instagram post. I think we won because we showed our football on the day. We didn't have to resort to that type of stuff.
Yeah, and look, we haven't achieved anything yet. It's different, when you're Geelong and you've won 2 premierships and you beat a belt aside by 186 points and you can close your eyes and pretend to be bored when you're singing the song. But
no, we haven't.
We've got a huge mountain to climb. So
before we bring Sophie on, I was sitting behind the goals above where the cheer squad sits, and next to me there were a couple of Melbourne supporters absolutely all day just giving it to Stringer all day, and there were some Bulldog supporters sitting near me who just obviously got sick of it towards the end of the game, and one of the Melbourne supporters said something like, "Oh, Stringer, you can't, you're so slow, you can't run." I can't remember exactly what he said, but the Bulldog supporter just turns around to this guy and goes, "He's just slow because the premiership medallion around his neck is weighing him down." It's like...
He had a shocker,
yeah.
Stringer, so... Yeah, he had an absolute shocker. Yeah. So, very forgettable game for him.
Yeah.
We should send our greetings out to Ethan Tremblay, who's listening in from Perth.
Yeah.
Maybe he knows some local knowledge over there ahead of this week's game and can offer up some insights into what the Demons can expect on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, we'll open up the phone lines 0390163666 or Skype us on Demonland31. We're going to take a break in a moment and bring in Sophie to have a chat. But also anyone listening live, and I know there are quite a number of listeners, over 60 people at the moment listening live. If you're listening live, we do have a chat room at demonland.com/podcast. Feel free to join us in that chat. If you are a member of Demonland and have an account, you can log in and type in anything you want. You can ask us questions. We may be able to ask Sophie some of them, or just generally chat with us during the show. So we're going to take a break now, put on some music, and we'll bring in Sophie. So we'll be back in a moment.
We've got a very special guest tonight. Sophie Gaylor has been involved with the cheer squad for nearly 30 years, and it's a role that requires an incredible commitment of time, energy, effort and money, a contribution that was recognised by the club last year when she was the joint winner of the Volunteer of the Year award at the Melbourne Football Club. So there's a lot more work that goes on into being a part of the cheer squad than just making the banner, and she's here to tell us all about it. Welcome to the Demonland podcast, Sophie Gaylor.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Now, Soph, I've got a bit of a confession to make. A dark
Sounds
secret
ominous.
that I've been holding on to for a while now. Back in the early 90s when the cheer squad sat in the red seats and you guys used to hand out, much as you do now, I'm sure, flags to all the Demon supporters sitting in the area.
I see where this is going.
We were meant to hand those flags back at the end of the game.
How many of them do you have?
Well, look, it's a bit tattered and it's in a bit of a decrepit state. And look, I honestly can't remember now whether it was intentional or inadvertent, but it is still at home. And I should say on the plus side that my niece and nephew like to pretend it's a banner, so I hold it on its side and they run through and they pretend that they're running out through the Melbourne banner. So it is being put to good use. You're not going to report my theft to the cops, are you, or to the club?
We've lost a lot of equipment lately. Someone out there has got a life-size cutout of Nathan Jones that they might want to hand back sometime soon. But no, your flag from the 90s is fine.
I think it's a Tooheys Blue one from memory. So
not Snowy Mountain or something.
It's more than worn out its welcome.
So, Sophie, we'll talk to you more about the match day in a moment, but can you take us through a typical week for the cheer squad? Because a lot more is happening behind the scenes than what we see, us in the rest of the crowd. What's been on your plate this week, for example?
Well, this week's been probably one of our more busy ones. We've had a game at Etihad, which involves trying to allocate 250 tickets to over 550 Demon Army members.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks, Etihad. We've also got ticketing for this week's game over in Perth. We've had to coordinate people to represent the group on the footy show tonight and also to help film a separate segment for the footy show with Sam Newman. I think then we've got a gathering on Saturday night that we're coordinating at the new club sponsor, the Sporting Globe. And then there's just the normal weekly stuff, the wording for the run-through, the weekly email update, social media, fundraising, that sort of thing. We make the banner tomorrow night, so that's a couple of hours. And so, yeah, it works out to be, I think, a couple of hours a day plus run-through plus match day.
How does the banner get over to Perth?
They actually roll it up into a little square and take it on as luggage. It only weighs about 10 kilos when it's all folded up.
There you go.
Just goes on, wrapped in plastic. We've taken it on as hand luggage before, but yeah, it folds down pretty small.
And just another quick question arising out of your answer there. What do you do when you've got 500 Demon Army members and only 250 seats at our new fortress, as we're referring it to?
Etihad Fortress. What, other than flirt outrageously with Etihad security and get as many extra people in as possible. Look, we're very creative with our seating, but yeah, Etihad don't really come to the party as far as cheer squads are concerned. It's slightly better with some clubs than others, but it's a real battle. So yeah, we get creative.
What's the difference with the MCG? How many extra do you get there?
Well, unless it's a reserved seating game, we can pretty much have anyone in our area that we want. The only proviso is that they're not blind drunk and that they're not wearing opposition colours. So match day we'll let anyone in, but Etihad we have to be a bit more strategic.
What happens on match day? Take us through a typical match day at the MCG. When do you all meet?
Let me paint you a picture. Well, for me, match day is a little bit more cruisy than some others. I do most of the stuff that I do during the week, so match day for me is a 3-year-old and a glass of wine. But for others, for example, Suzanne...
Hang on, is the 3-year-old the one drinking the glass of wine?
No, he's become a Melbourne supporter at a good time. If he was a 5-year-old, he'd be on the booze. But yeah, Suzanne coordinates the match day stuff, and so she's there normally a couple of hours before the gates open. She coordinates the crew going out on the ground with the banner, puts it on the poles, gets all the equipment set up. Ryan, who's my other partner in crime there, distributes the equipment, leads all the chanting. So it makes for a pretty long day for those guys. But yeah, as I said, I do most of the stuff that I do behind the scenes and not on match day.
So you've been with the cheer squad for close to 30 years, and we estimate that that's like 600 plus banners you've worked on.
You'd get less for murder, wouldn't you?
What are some of your favourite banners from over the years? And is it a group effort, who comes up with it, or do you have someone who's got some special wit from the Demon Army who comes up with most of them?
I don't know about special wit, but normally I've been doing the wording for it now for 3 or 4 years. If other people have good ideas, they throw them at me. But it's been a pretty hard time, particularly 2012 to 2014. It's been pretty hard to sort of write positive and uplifting statements when the team performance on the ground was just so woeful in places. So it's sort of a joint effort. Certainly the construction of it, we have about 25 regulars who turn up every week to make it. We've got a guy called Tom who is an absolute genius at putting these things together. So, we've got a good team effort, but I've been responsible for most of the words over the past sort of 3 or 4 years. As for the favourite ones, I kind of liked it back in the sort of 80s and 90s when we were allowed to be a little bit more edgy, slightly more arrogant. These days you need club approval and we're not going down the Bulldogs path of using the banners to slate the opposition. But there was a couple. There was one at Football Park in Adelaide where we had a giant picture of Bart Simpson and it said, "We're the Melbourne Demons, who the hell are you?" And the boos are still resonating in my ears from that one. We had one that I think our objective: first beat Footscray and then worry about the good sides. That went down well. And another significant one for me was one in 96 that was about to make a final surge. So go to hell, we won't merge. Which they didn't let us hold up, so we went into the top deck of the Southern Stand and held it up there instead.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, happy days, hey?
Yeah.
I don't know who put it out, but there was actually a banner book released. It would have been maybe early 90s, perhaps mid-90s. That had sorry?
I think it was late 80s.
Late 80s. There's a few in there that I love. Demon Desperation, Demon Desire, Watch as we set the MCG on fire. But some of those banners, as you say, in the late 80s were just enormous, and the not that work doesn't go into them now, but they were just so elaborate that they would have just taken so much time.
Yeah, I mean, there are some cheer squads that still paint their letters by hand and are up till all hours of the night hair drying their banners dry. So we'd like to think we've come on a little way from that, but it's still quite a lot of work for 30 seconds of glory.
Well, Binman in the chat room has just asked a question that is AFL the only major sport that has banners and cheer squads?
Certainly the banners, to the best of my knowledge. I don't know of any other sport where they're used as an introduction to the side. I mean, the Storm do it for Melbourne, but I think that's just because it's a Victorian thing.
We've got another question in the chat room from a listener over in Perth now, but he remembers as a kid in the 90s seeing a blonde-haired fellow wearing a robe at every game amongst the cheer squad. Is he still around? Has he ditched the robe, or do you know who that refers to?
I think who was in a robe in blonde hair? I mean, anything's possible. It could be Ryan, who is still around. There's some pretty awful photos of him going around, but I can't think of anyone who ever wore a robe.
Was he the guy in the blue jumper with number 45 on the back?
No, that's Hocko.
No.
Hocko, that's right.
Yeah, that was Hocko. Yeah. Next question.
Okay, all right.
Look, one of the recent additions to your armoury has been the bullseye. I think Jesse hit it against GWS in the last round at Etihad in 2:15, right on the three-quarter time siren. And I've got a feeling Tom McDonald might have come close on the weekend also after the three-quarter time siren. Who else has been on or around the mark?
Oh, I think it's great that you guys actually pay attention to those things.
Well, it's a goal-kicking aid, isn't it?
Well, sometimes I think we've only had half a dozen people who've hit it, so maybe it's not that much of an aid. Tommy Mack certainly hit it on the weekend and got it right in the middle, and I think he's the only one who's actually hit the bullseye. But yeah, you're right. Jesse Hogan did it. Matt Jones, I think, Nathan Jones, Jeff Garlett did it against Richmond, and Cam Pedersen, I think, and I think that's it.
Well, Jeffy's probably would have been from the square, wouldn't it? So his probably doesn't count.
Yeah, blindfolded and on the wrong foot.
Yeah, that's right.
Whose idea was it to introduce the Pac-Man ghosts? Because that's my daughter's favourite.
Oh, great! Look, Ryan Sinclair has probably a million ideas, and one in every sort of 1,000 is perfect. And the rest of them are sort of a bit left of centre and a bit wild and a bit wacky. But he loved the idea of a giant Max Gorn Pac-Man chasing the red and blue ghosts. And we were going to use it as sort of something to put off the opposition as they kicked for goal, along with those big whirly hypno discs. But, Ryan's responsible for those Pac-Men and the ghosts. I'm glad someone likes it. That's great.
So both Grapeviney and I were cheer squad members, as he mentioned, in the late 80s and early 90s, and one of our favourite aspects of our role was the thrill of being out on the ground pre-match and the atmosphere when the boys ran out. Do you still get a thrill? Is it something, or is that something that only attracts sort of the younger supporters?
To be honest, I only go out on the ground once a year these days. It's one of those things, so many people get so much pleasure out of being out there and get so excited about it. And it really doesn't get me that excited anymore. I'd rather make sure that everything behind the goals is going okay and try and chase a 3-year-old child up and down M3. But yeah, I think if we make finals, I shall be stampeding over people to get out there. But at the moment, I'm quite content to sit back and let other people have a go.
You said you've got is about 500 members in the Demon Army?
I think we're 560 now.
Is there a typical profile of a sort of your typical cheer squad member, or does it cut across all ages and genders, and you've got people from all over the place there?
Yeah, look, we've I think it's very hard to say we've got a typical cheer squad member these days. I think we all come from different backgrounds, all nationalities. We've got a really wide range of ages. For example, we've got a new baby called Xavier Anderton, who I think is 2 months old, who's a member. And at the other end of the scale, we've got Auntie Margaret in her mid-80s.
Wow.
So we've got a real cross-section of people. We've got a drinking squad. We've got the young kids. We've got the families. We've got just normal sort of everyday people who on the weekend turn into rabid one-eyed demon supporters.
Has it been hard in the last 10 years to attract new people into the cheer squad, considering the poor form, well, not in the last couple of years, but the previous 7 or 8 years before then, when we were really playing some terrible football?
Look, it's a good question. We were invited to take over the running of it and run it as a professional business from 2013. And I think the way that we've looked at it mainly is to make it good fun regardless of the football, because there have been games where all you could do was sit back and have a laugh and down as many beers as you could at half time. Like, really, it was hard work. These days we've got people who actually are keen to join in and we don't have to work at it quite so hard. But yeah, 2013 and 14 were pretty tricky. I think we were coming off a base of about 240 members in 2012. And it was getting really hard to sort of get people enthusiastic about coming to the football and get people wanting to volunteer more and more of their time. But yeah, as I said, this year we've been inundated with people offering to help, and yeah, it's just wonderful.
One of the guys in the chat room has just asked, do the Demon Army have anything to do with the cheer squads of the other clubs? Is there any interaction at all?
Look, they have a cheer squad league which meet once a month, that we sort of go to those meetings, but we operate quite differently from a number of cheer squads. Some of them operate the same, but a lot of them are managed by the club, whereas we sort of take guidance from the club and get certain things approved, but we're pretty much allowed to sort of run free now that we've proved that we're relatively trustworthy. I know we deal with Richmond, obviously, for the Anzac Eve banner. Yep. We've got good friends at GWS. We've got good friends at Geelong, but we tend to operate pretty much by ourselves. That said, if we're out on the ground and we see that there's a problem with the opposition's banner, we tend to go over and help. And there's still a bit of a chat in the breezeway while you're waiting to go out on the ground. So, yeah, we play nicely.
Very good. As we talked about earlier, the cheer squad used to be located at about half forward in the northern stand in the red seats. I know. You now sit behind the goals, which are not great seats for a good view of what's happening on the other side of the ground. Is that just one of the sacrifices you make when you sign on? And, I mean, as I can hear from your voice, you obviously miss those red seats.
Yeah,
we all do, I think.
Subject.
Yeah.
Look, a number of people in our group would give just about anything to be back in those old red seats, me included. I don't know, you just remember the days where there was a wall of red and blue on that wing. Yep. So I know that having cheer squads behind the goals is great for television, but you're right, it's not a great view. It's one of those sacrifices we make. We get a rubbish view and we're in a dry area, so yeah.
What sort of interaction do you have with the players? And is it hard if you know them on a personal level, which I'd imagine some of them you do, to when you're watching to be critical of them? Are you effectively foregoing your rights, your normal rights as a supporter, to give players grief if they're putting in a stinker?
Look, personally, I don't have that much interaction with the current players. They're always lovely if I see them, but I tend to stay away. I get that awkward sort of part groupie, part cougar kind of feeling. It makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. You can note that I don't have the same reservations about players from the late 80s and early 90s.
Yeah, I saw your comments on social media today.
Oh, poor Stephen Stretch. He'll be there minding his own business and watching his son play.
You used to be a fan of John Howard, if I'm if I'm not mistaken.
He's a
Is that
lovely
right?
bloke. Yeah, he was my best friend's boyfriend for a long time. So, yeah.
Isn't it amazing the things that you remember?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why I'd
Like a
retain
steel
something like that, but
trap.
there you go.
I mean, our current players, they're fabulous towards our group. They really are. They'll always acknowledge the people who are doing the work, and I've never heard of anyone being snubbed or told to bugger off or anything like that. So, yeah, they're pretty good, but I tend to sort of keep my distance. With regards to criticising players, look, I'll be honest, it was tricky for a few of those years when we were just so bad on the field.
Yep.
And it was quite hard trying to be positive with the run-through slogans and that sort of stuff. You don't want to encourage people to take their toasters in the bath, but it was hard to sort of be upbeat and positive through that period. But yeah, I don't know. I think most of our core group continued to rabidly support the club in public and then just sobbed and whinged in private. So yeah, I think that's the role of the group.
You mentioned Stephen Stretch, and you've seen hundreds of players come and go over the years. Who are your favourites over that time? You can give us a top 3 or a top 5. I think I saw you list a few today.
The favourite to watch or the favourite to adore from afar?
Well, you can give us either. You choose.
Okay. The favourite to watch is probably safest. Alan Jakovic is right up there. You could only have wished that he could have played for 10 years.
Yep.
And yeah, if anyone knows where he is and can get him to one of our functions.
Or on the Demonland podcast.
I would love to. A reliable source told me that he was on a trawler somewhere off
we've all heard,
North Coast.
We've all heard
We've
that.
all heard the trawler story, yeah.
I got mine from Mike Sheehan. Where'd you get yours
from? Okay, no, that's we just got it off Demonland, which means nothing.
Alan Jakovic, probably Gary Lyon, David Neitz was just brilliant.
Yeah.
Nathan Jones, I still don't understand how he's just kept going at that same level for so long now. And Brad Green, I always enjoyed watching him and that sort of taking comfort in the fact that he so rarely missed a shot for goal. I really loved those guys, but the favourites to support, I think you could probably say Matthew Phoebe 5 times. Stephen Stretch I loved watching him play, and he's such a nice guy, and I like Darren Bennett and Schwarter, and Jack Watts is my current favourite.
Is that another goal kicking thing? Watts, he gets it, and you just know it's it's going through.
No, look, to be honest, I felt really sorry for him and the pressure that was put on him when he first started. And I think that was the first player I ever felt maternal towards. I was quite protective of Jack Watts. And a couple of my friends, we stood up and said, "Get your hands off our boy," or something like that. We're very protective of him. So I just wanted him to shine and knew that one day everyone would see that he was amazing and get off his bloody back.
Good. He shined. He shone on the big stage a couple of weeks ago and backed it up with another good game on the weekend. So,
how many times have you watched the Collingwood goal?
Sorry?
How many times have you watched the Collingwood goal?
Too many
it's
to
pretty
count.
much on endless repeat, either on the TV, the computer, or the phone. But it's. I like it with the 3AW commentary over the top, which we played a few times last week during the podcast, and has been all over Demonland. So happy days.
Yeah.
Tommy Bugg seems to be the current number one target of the Cheer Squad's affections. How did that come about, and what did you think of the pre-game banter on Instagram with JJ and the media hullabaloo which followed?
Hullabaloo. I think we were introduced to Tommy Bugg when he first came to Melbourne. I think he got dragged over to our table at one of the season launches and had a bit of a chat to him then. And his family come from near where my family were when I grew up, so we had a sort of a local chat. But I think he's just very welcoming to our group. He always comes straight to our area to give out footies if we've had a win. And yeah, he's been a really good supporter of our group. So we sort of tend to reciprocate there. The Instagram stuff, I like that sort of thing. I like the niggling. I like the arrogance and the attitude. I think my only concern would be that someone will take it too far and say something racist or homophobic or just plain ignorant. And sort of once it's out in social media, it's there forever. So, I wouldn't like one of our guys to be forever tarnished with that sort of thing. So, but yeah, thank goodness mobile phones didn't have cameras in my teens. There's no evidence of the stuff that I did.
You can say that again.
Yeah, isn't it great being old?
Oh yeah. So we're playing the Eagles in Perth this week. How many cheer squad members are going to fly over for the game, and is that something they pay for out of their own pocket?
Yeah, the majority of our group that are going over paid for it themselves. The club kicks in dollars to help transport stuff. If we ask, we tend to sort of just pay the $20 and we don't tend to charge the club back. There's quite a lot of generosity on the part of our members in that regard. We sort of just suck it up a bit. We've got 60 people going over for the Perth game. As an indication, I think we had 140 in Adelaide. We've got about 130 going to Tassie and to Canberra. So, yeah, getting some pretty good numbers, getting a good travelling group together now. But, yeah, most of the trips are self-funded, but they tend to go over and make a holiday of it. They'll do a couple of cruises down the river and a couple of wine tastings and things like that. So you sort of turn it into a holiday.
Nice. Big commitment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're originally a Brit, when did you come to Australia and how did you become a demon?
Oh, okay. So my family came over in late 1987, so just a little bit too late to see Robbie Flower play. Most of my family were instantly Collingwood supporters through a guy that my dad worked with at the Herald Sun, or the then Herald. And I think I flirted with the idea of being an Essendon supporter for about 6 weeks, sort of peer pressure at school, that sort of thing. But then a friend from school, Cheryl, took me to Melbourne footy training at the Junction Oval. And that's pretty much where it started. I was just absolutely hooked. The players I spoke to were lovely and said what a cool accent I had. And
who were the players? Obviously, a Phoebe's in there, probably. Or...
There may have been a Matthew Phoebe involved. Graham Yates was really great. Jamie Dersma, people who sort of came and said welcome to the country. And I just couldn't believe it. Coming from a soccer background, you'd never meet a player, you'd never be introduced to a player or be able to get that close to them. So to sort of sit on that old tin dugout at the Junction and chat to these people was just amazing.
So I was told that you were a Crystal Palace fan. Is that true?
That's an evil rumour.
Did their colours factor into your decision to become a Demon?
No, the Demons were a choice, but Palace was there from birth. My father's a fanatical Crystal Palace supporter, so I think it was an automatic thing. It was that or sleep outside. Got 2 sporting loves, both teams in red and blue, and neither of them have won since I've been born.
So you actually chose to become a Demon. Unfortunately, the two of us had no choice. We were born into this hell.
Well, I was convinced what a great choice I'd made, because I think we turned up in 88 grand final and we won the 89 night grand final. Yep. I was just convinced. My mum told me in 89 I could get a tattoo when Melbourne won a flag. She was visionary, my mum.
Yes. That's one good way to make sure your children don't get a tattoo.
Yeah. Let them follow Melbourne.
You mentioned your father a bit earlier, and the fact that he used to work at the Herald. Now, he actually worked on the sports desk,
Yes.
certainly at the Herald Sun. There's not a lot of those jobs left, not just at the Herald Sun, but in newspapers. Is he still working, or what's he up to now?
They fortunately made him redundant probably the year before he was going to retire. So not only did he retire, but he retired with a nice redundancy package. I think a lot of the people on the newspapers saw the writing was on the wall. They saw things being outsourced to Sydney and a lot of sort of the editing, sub-editing stuff going to Adelaide. And I think they all saw that the shift was going to be more online, and also that there was going to be far more tell us your story on Twitter sort of thing rather than proper journalism. So I think, when he left, it was the beginning of the end for a lot of people in that area. I don't think working on the Herald Sun has the same prestige that it used to, because it's just so much of it is online and so much of it is just bashed through on social media at the speed of sound. So, I think he got out at the right
in a
time.
footy sense, as you say, the Herald Sun has lost a huge body of historical and corporate knowledge, because you had all those footy reporters who had been in the caper for many, many years, and all of that talent sort of left in a very short space of time, including your father
as well.
Sorry?
The photographers as well. I think
there's
a lot of them that are now no
we
longer
were talking
Herald
the other
Sun.
week that Wayne Ludby is just finishing up. So what a loss to the game that is too.
Yeah.
Look, Soph, just before we finish up, we know that you and others dig deep into your own pockets to do the job that you do. You get a little bit of help from the club, I'm assuming, along the way. Do you have other sponsors or supporters? Who are they? And give them a shout out, and just tell our audience how they can get in touch with you guys if they want to join the Demon Army.
Yeah, no worries. Look, probably the most important one at the moment for us is Don McClarty and the awesome folk at Reach. They've recently offered us their factory so that we have a new permanent home to put our banners together, which is great. John Trotter on the board has been amazingly supportive, along with Jane and Aisling, who work at the club, who are sort of our liaison people. And some of the hours these people keep, they're brilliant people. I think we've got new friends at the Sporting Globe who we'll give a plug to, because they've given us their entire function area for our get-togethers. And the last one, I think I cannot imagine how much money crossed the bar at that Gold Coast game. But, they wouldn't have been operating at a loss that night, that's for sure. But, other than that, there's obviously a huge thank you to the probably 60 or so core group who put in so many hours outside of match day. And there are a couple among our group who financially back the group. It's just wonderful. So anyone who wants to get involved, whether it just be to sit with us for a game or wanting to take on some voluntary stuff outside of match day, you can follow us on Facebook. That's probably the easiest way, with Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Come down and see us at the game. Pretty much anyone in that front area will have a chat to anyone who turns up. But, I think we're all sort of working towards the same goal. So if anyone does have a passion and want to get more involved, just take that first step and come and say hello. You'll feel uncomfortable for about 30 seconds, and then you'll have 500 new friends.
Yeah, exactly.
And might get a chance to hold up Jeffy Garlett's head or similar.
No, I like the Jeffy Garlett that you've got. Does he clap his hands or something? That's a brilliant one.
Man, you are paying attention.
I was sitting above you guys on the weekend, so I had a bird's eye view of what was happening down there, and I must say you guys do a fantastic job. And I was just, while you were talking about while you're just talking about how it all works, I was thinking there's a lot of us who don't sit in the cheer squad, but we benefit from the energy you guys bring. Every time there's the Melbourne.
Yep.
But we benefit. So, because we don't sit there, I sit on the second level on the wing almost. But as I said, I benefit from the energy you bring to the game. Is there some way, maybe you can set up some way that perhaps people like me can donate and help out you guys with some extra funds throughout the year and, maybe I can, buy a Demon Army membership or something.
There are certainly people who buy Demon Army memberships who never intend to sit with us, and it's wonderful because not only do we get the numbers, the club gets $45 or whatever it is, but it really does boost our group to have those people there. Obviously, not everyone can sit with us. We've got people who are interstate members who just join for exactly that, just to show their support, really. But yeah, anytime you want to start sewing banners and flags or anything like that.
We might start with Grapeviney returning the one that he stole.
Yeah.
I might have stolen one too, I think, but I don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I'm seeing a pattern emerging here. I now know where all our gear is going.
That's why we had to leave the cheer squad. We felt too guilty.
Yeah, and this could be a good time to end the interview right now, actually.
Yes, the statute of limitations is probably over by now. Well, thank you for joining us. If you do want to stick around for a bit and talk D's, you're very welcome to. We're just going to talk about the game on the weekend. I know you said you've got a 3-year-old running around, so it's totally up to you whether you want to stick around or not.
I'm actually sitting in the car outside my house, believe it or not. I thought that child is going to ruin this. So, yeah, if I disappear, it's either because I've frozen to death or because I've got to go in and put a small child to sleep.
All right, well, you can stay on the line. If you drop out, you drop out. We're just going to talk the D, so I'm sure that's something that you enjoy talking about because it's probably one of the only things I talk about.
And you sitting in the car, freezing there, that's the kind of commitment which saw you won the Volunteer of the Year award last year. So that's now we know the lengths that you go to to serve the club.
The commitment to the club, yeah.
That's right.
So the game on the weekend, where we talked a little bit at the start of the show, but where do we start? What a fantastic game.
It's hard to know where to start because it was 22 players playing for 4 quarters. So, in previous weeks when we do the match review, we single out the better players. And I think as we saw in the Demonland votes, there were 15 players that probably got votes. So it was hard to single out the better players because it was just such an even performance across the board, wasn't it?
It really was. One player I'd like to single out because, in the past many people have been critical of him, he's made mistakes and, stuffed up a couple of kicks but had a fantastic game. Is Oscar McDonald, I thought, really played probably his best game at the club.
Yep. Look, he was in really good form in the second half of Collingwood. And there's a bit of debate, but I think everyone knows that Oscar's going to be one of the better defenders in the league. And once he puts on a bit more size, he may well be unbeatable in a short amount of time. But he was excellent the other day, no doubt about that. No queries at all on that one. And just one player I'd like to highlight. Because I thought in the context of the game it was really important, and that's just before halftime and just after halftime, Jack Watts. He sealed the game against Collingwood and he came close to sealing it against the Dogs. The steadying kick from the mark on halftime was a ripping kick from almost 50 on a very tight angle. Beautiful kick. And then he took that strong mark early in the third quarter, which I think took it out to 40 points and sort of, came close to putting it beyond the Dog grasp. So well done to Jack because got a lot of positive press during the week, and he backed it up, I thought, with another good game on the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy. We've said it all along. He's the guy you want with the ball, 5 points down in a grand final, 50 metres out. He's who you want to have the ball in his hand, and he continues to do it. Week in, week out. And he's really stepped up to the plate. I think as he's snapped it up a notch.
Soph, one question for you.
Soph had to drop out. She just sent me a message through Skype. So you can ask me.
Right. No, we'll push on then. I was going to ask her a question which we've dealt with in previous weeks, but let's carry on. Another player, speaking of OMAC, I thought T-Mac. He's been really good in the ruck these past couple of weeks. We discussed that he wasn't a forward, and his on ball work has been really good. I thought he played a great game on the weekend, and I was talking with Bin Man earlier. We were just messaging each other a few different things, and I mentioned to him that I reckon the injuries to Gawn and Jesse, and we're just talking about, I choose my words carefully here. I'm going to say a blessing in disguise. We don't wish that Jesse's gone through on anyone, but the club's benefited from this and will in the long run, because Goodwin and the coaching staff have had to be really flexible and versatile, and they've managed to come up with a winning formula for most of those weeks that Jesse and Max have been missing. And that's going to hold us in good stead in the future. If we're ever down by 5 goals and Goody needs to throw things around structurally, we know, Peterson forward and in the ruck, Tommy Mack back and in the ruck, even potentially a stint up forward. Not starting that. We definitely don't want him starting in the forward line.
Well, he actually kicked a great goal that I gave him no chance of kicking. So
right on 3/4 time. Yeah, it was a great kick too.
Yeah,
and also a little bit like Watts, just sort of came at a good time, and that one definitely put the issue beyond doubt. But we've learned to be really sort of flexible these last couple of months, and it'll hold us in good stead in the future, I reckon.
Yeah, not many clubs would be able to withstand losing their number one ruckman, losing the backup ruckman, losing their forward and having to play their other 2 forwards as ruckman, their full-back as a ruckman. Not many clubs would bounce back from that, and we didn't just bounce back from it. We excelled, and we're sitting at 7-5. We know full well that we could be sitting a lot better than that, possibly in the top 4, but obviously that didn't happen. We are where we are, and thank God we're possibly getting back Maxi this week, and in the coming weeks we'll have Jesse back and almost back to full complement. Not many clubs would have survived that.
No, not as you say. We've excelled, and the ability of the midfield to win clearances and win the contest. Even though we're losing the ruck, just credit to them, really. Super stuff. Really super stuff.
Anyone else? The 22 performers on the weekend. Did anyone else's performances stand out for you?
One who caught my eye, just because we saw him on the ball a little bit and he didn't look out of place at all, was Mitch Hannon.
I was going to bring that up. I thought it was a great idea to give him little bits of the game in the middle, and I thought he did really well. And it's really good that we've got the luxury to, we've got such a rotating midfield at the moment and so many guys that can step up, that it's good to be able to give some of these guys a couple of minutes here and there in the middle, because it will only improve their game. Him going back into the forward line, by him playing in the midfield, it's going to improve his game in the forward line. Like sometimes coaches might play some forwards in the back line to improve their defensive part of their game.
Yep.
And
but he looked really comfortable in the middle, didn't he?
He really did.
And it seems to be a bit of a natural. So, and he keeps bobbing up for those goals.
That goal that he kicked is exactly what he's in the team to do. He's kicked a number of those type of goals, just
they've
quickly
almost
getting.
All been identical.
Yeah, it's getting that quickly, just almost throwing the ball onto the boot,
yep,
and kicking goals. So great effort.
Good to see some praise coming to Sophie, just in the chat room. Mini 48 and Ethan Tremblay both saying she was fantastic and does a great job, and they do. We probably don't thank them enough, the cheer squad, because as Sophie told us, that's a crap load of work, isn't it? So good to hear that there's a bit of recognition for that among the supporters.
Yeah, well, like I said towards the end, we don't sit behind the goals. I'm quite happy with the seats where we sit. We've got great vantage to watch the game, but we certainly do benefit from the energy that they bring, particularly in those big games when we've had 70, 80,000 people there. So, cheer squad's a very important part of the game for us. So, if you can support them, just buy a membership, even if you don't go and sit down with them. If you can afford a couple of extra bucks a year, please do so. I might take this while we're talking about the game, and we're going to talk about a couple of other issues at Demonland and talk about the game next week and the ins and outs. If you want to join us in this conversation, we've got a lot of people listening. We've got two ways you can contact us. Give us a call, 03 9016 3666. That's 03 9016 3666. Or Skype us, Demonland31. Just look up in the search in Skype, Demonland31. No need to do a friend request or whatever. Just click that phone button and give us a call, and we'll get you on as soon as we can. And it's always good to hear other views. Grapeviney and I, we're not experts. We just see the game as we see it. Sometimes the emotion of the game, gets us and might cloud our judgment. But we'd love.
We're very far from being experts.
Exactly.
We're about as amateur as it gets.
Well, we're just fans who are just talking about the game and the way we see it. I don't necessarily watch the replays over and over, so there's things we miss, and we might say a player didn't play well or had made a couple of mistakes, and we've tarred the rest of their career because of those mistakes. But we're not experts. So if you've got a differing point of view, same point of view, give us a call, 03 9016 3666 or Demonland31 on Skype. Would love to hear from you. Love to hear from other Demonlanders. You don't have to give your name if you don't want to. Just give your handle. Would love to hear from you. So how many times did you look at the ladder after the game? Just to see.
Well, it's competing for my attention and affection still with the Jack Watts goal. So, perhaps have it on screensaver so that if you pause the Jack Watts goal and have to go and make yourself lunch or something, the ladder then takes over. But it looks pretty good when you're fifth, doesn't it? And
yeah.
A game clear in percentage. Long way to go yet, but
of course,
bloody good feeling, I've got to say.
It does. Someone asked, when was the last time we were sitting fifth, and particularly at this time of the, this time of the year. It's no use being fourth on the ladder after round one. That sort of means nothing when the next week.
Yeah, Richmond.
Yeah, then the next week you're 9th or 10th. And the answer to that question is round 12, 2006, we were 5th. Round 12, 2005, we were 2nd. And round 12, 2004, we were 3rd. So, it's been a long time since we sort of had this vantage point. And I must say, it feels a lot nicer than being 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, or dare I say 18th on the ladder.
Yeah, it's shaping up as an interesting year, and may well be like last year, where it's not the best side over the year that wins the flag, but the side that happens to be in the best form come September. So, if we can hang around and make it, then the bye, could help us. And anything's possible once you get there. The Bulldogs showed that. Played 4 weeks of blistering footy in September last year, but finished 7th. So
Yep.
you only have to be there at the end, and anything's possible.
Well, look, I think there's many teams that could possibly win the premiership this year, including a team like Sydney, who's well out of the 8, but they're certainly coming from a long way back. Considering where they were a few weeks ago, and I dare say they're still a team that could win it, and we've got a big game coming up against them in a couple of weeks.
Huge game. Yep.
Yeah. So while we're talking about the game, I felt that we didn't have a lot of support at Etihad on the weekend. I thought, it was the Bulldogs' home game, but I thought they sort of they definitely outnumbered us and outvoiced us on the day. We really felt like we were a lonely team. I don't know.
I didn't get that so much. I must admit I'm quieter in that situation than I am at a home game. I was sitting next to some Melbourne supporters, but it was sort of mixed. I was up on just on level 3, but it was pretty mixed around us. Probably more doggies than demons, but not hugely so. But I just find it being sort of that far back. I was sort of about midway up on level 3 because you can't sit closer to the front because they're reserved seats. But I find myself disconnected from the ground because it just seems to be sort of that bit further away. And yeah, when you're sitting, I guess, I went on my own on the weekend rather than sitting, with my dad and brother and with you guys as we do for home games. So that changes my behaviour. So I'm a lot more, just sort of a lot quieter, I guess. So maybe other supporters are sort of the same. It's hard to generate that same energy that we're able to build at the MCG. So I guess you've sort of got to expect that a little bit for away games. But I thought there were enough Demon supporters there.
I must say, I'm really loving Etihad Stadium at the moment.
Yeah,
in terms of the way we play there, it's certainly a different feeling leaving that cold stadium than it was in the previous years. So I think we just had a call that I just missed, so I wasn't looking at the other computer. So if you want to give a call back, please do. Would love to take your call. So, if you just try to call right now, please give us a call. I am looking at the screen now.
Yep. I was going to say that we're 5th on the AFL ladder, but we're number 1 on the pressure ladder.
Yes. So that was a thing. Did you have I didn't quite understand exactly how they worked out those stats.
Well, because they said all the hard things rolled into one. They didn't explain it particularly well, but we vaguely know what it means, in terms of sort of tackling.
It was tackling, smothers. I don't know what it shepherds. I'm just going to bring up the article. I'm behind the paywall, so I'm just going to get around it at the moment. Wait, we've got. Whoever was trying to call us left a voicemail, so I don't think, for some reason, they're able to get through. Keep trying. I'm just going to try and get this article. So,
George on the outer makes the valid point that it's hard to get vocal when you're leading by 8 goals, and that's where we're at now as a club. We're so used to winning that we're just probably a little bit blasé about it now. We expect it to happen, so maybe that's a factor in it too.
It could be. This article says that Melbourne is ranked number 1 in the league for defensive pressure, averaging 187 points a game. That's all the hard stuff and harassment, which is tackles, chases, bone-crunching bumps and collisions rolled into one number. So I'm not sure how they judge bone-crunching bumps and collisions, but they obviously give a points system to it. And
there didn't seem to be a huge difference between top and bottom, so I don't know what that all means.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't need the numbers to tell us what we can see with our own eyes. I mean, the first quarter was a bit like the first quarter, but first quarter against the Doggies was a bit like the first quarter against the Crows, where we were just manic. And the Smothers particularly really stood out, and superb effort from the boys, because they just harassed the Dogs and broke them pretty quickly, basically.
Yeah, so we're number one on 187, and 18th is Fremantle on 174. So you're right, there isn't much of a difference between first and last. But it's our pressure is definitely evident, and that's something that started with Paul Roos. We can't thank Paul Roos enough for turning this club around, and it's just. Simon Goodwin has continued the that legacy that Roos brought to the club, and I'm loving watching us at the moment. It's a good brand to watch. We're scoring above 100 points every game. Defensively they're really good. The run off half back's great. The middle is fantastic. We haven't won a rucking contest, and not just we haven't won. We're getting smashed in the ruck, as in the tap outs. But we're winning clearances every single week. And it's just fantastic to watch. For years, just in the middle, we had Jones as our lone, soldier in the middle. And now I've almost got an embarrassment of riches, and I don't even need to name, the guys that are winning it, because it's quite evident week in, week out.
Yep, our man Clarence had another good game, so... Yep.
He really does. While we're talking good games or not, the coaches' votes, once again, there's one guy who's really stepping it up with those coaches' votes, and even the votes on for the Demonland Player of the Year. If he'd played the first 3 games of the year, I mean, imagine where he'd be. And he's got to be the recruit of the year, and I'm talking about none other than Michael Hibbard.
Yeah, did he get the? He got 10 again, the perfect score.
All 10 votes, and
I think for the first time on the weekend he made a mistake.
What did he do?
And it stood out because he hasn't. I don't think he's made a single mistake, or it hasn't seemed so. But he had another great game, and he's, as you say, he's shaping up as the recruit of the year. And if he continues this form, he's in all-Australian contention, without a doubt. We've sung his praises every week, and we'll continue to sing them because he's, he's going to give Clary a run for his money in the Bluey.
And now, am I right? I can't remember. One of the journalists might have made a list of the best recruits of the year, and I thought I read somewhere that Michael Hibbard's name wasn't on that list.
I think that might have been Rowan Connolly.
So, we'll stuff him. Now, someone else has been trying to call as well, and it looks like it's going straight to voicemail. I don't know why that is. We have been able to take calls from mobiles in the past, so I don't know why that is happening. I might close Skype and open it again and see how we go. So if you have been trying to call, keep trying. I don't know why it's going to voicemail and not coming up as a call for me. So do. Yeah,
and it'd be good to chat to.
We've been asking
to chat to some other Demonlanders.
We've been asking for calls, and then when 2 people call in, I can't take the calls for some reason. So
we're even
please
trying to bribe listeners last week with Demonland gear. So try again, please.
And now, because you've called in, that deal is no longer on the table. we might have to later if no one else calls in, but do call in. Give us your thoughts on the game. 0390163666. I mean, I could probably call them, but I don't want to be so presumptuous to call them back, because I do have that option, I think. But do give a call in. I don't think radio programs generally call the listeners.
No.
It's usually the other way around. So, do try again, yeah. So that was the coaches' votes. There's also each week, I don't know if we usually talk about it on this program, but the AFL bring out their team of the week, and I don't know if that means anything. Maybe it just sort of it adds up at the end of the year to see maybe whose names are around for all Australian contention, but they have this team of the week, and Michael Hibbert made it again, and another guy who hasn't made it this year made it, Christian Salem, and he also had a great game, and I believe he got some votes as well in the...
Yes, we forgot to mention Christian. He was great.
Yeah.
Look, we've seen we've seen what he's capable of. We saw it last year, we've seen some of it this year, but he had a really good game on the weekend, and that goal was an absolute beauty, from just outside 50 or just on 50 on the run. So lots to love about Salem. Very good user of the ball, in the top 5 at the club, I would have thought, along with Watsy. So, yep. Was it just the two of them?
No,
was it just Hibbert and Salem?
No, also Jeffy Garlett made it in as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Deservedly so. Should have had 5 goals because he hit the post 3 times, as well as the 2 that he kicked. So it really could have been 5-0. And again, we've sung his praises every week. Big Jeffy fan, so well done. Yeah. I noticed that when David King was giving his current all Australian side, which he did on the couch on Monday night, there wasn't a single Melbourne player among the group there. So
is that true? Wow.
No Hibbard, no Garlett, no Oliver, which is interesting.
Very interesting. That baffles me that this week of all, we couldn't get in.
Don't care.
Yep. Who cares? You know what? I've been saying I'm happy to fly under the radar. Let no one notice us until we, get
win
into
the
finals. Yeah, that's right. And then they'll stand up and take notice. Do we put the debate, the Kelly versus Salem / Tyson / if you want to include Jaden Hunt and anyone else that you want to add to bed? Is that there was an article written on the weekend that gave over the week that sort of gave Christian Salem's views on it.
There's no debate. Kelly's a great player.
Yeah.
We know Salem's a very good player. He's not going to, perhaps not at the Kelly level. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But and Tyson's pretty good. So it's a win-win-win trade all around. So nothing to be debated, I don't think, and I don't even know why people still bother with it. Everyone loves to look back on previous drafts, don't they? You just notice in a thread randomly. It sounds like a phone ringing.
I'm actually just ringing the Demon Land podcast. Oh, it is going straight to Message Bank. I don't know why that's happening.
Maybe they can call in on the other number.
They can call in on Skype, but I'm wondering why it's going to voice message when I can see in my settings that incoming calls are to be received normally. It's not sent to voice message. So, maybe I didn't pay. Maybe I didn't pay the bill or something for the number. That's that's something I could think about. But yeah.
Well, maybe if that person's in the chat room and they do want to come online, perhaps you can call them and they can just indicate in the chat room that they're happy for you to call them.
If you want to give me if you're in the chat room and you called, if you just want to put the last number of I've got 2 numbers up here. If you want to put the last number of your telephone number in there, I'll call you back. But if not, we'll just keep going, and I might, while we're talking, just have a look on my Skype account to see if I owe money or something.
Yeah, I was just saying that every now and then you'll see in a completely random, you'll see in a thread about something else, and then somebody brings up Jimmy Toumpas and Ollie Wines. And I don't know, some people just, they can't move beyond the misery of what happened in years gone by. And I don't know why you'd want to return to the dark past when the present is so bright. So, yeah, I'm not interested in those kinds of discussions, Kelly versus Salem and Tyson and Toumpas and Wines and all of that stuff.
Well, there's nothing we can do about
history.
it. Like, what? There's nothing you can do about it. So why, you can cry about we should have done this, we should have done that, but we didn't, and we are where we are. I don't think there's anything you can. We can't whinge about it.
Somebody has put their number into the podcast chat room, I think.
Okay, yeah, all right.
It might be D's 2014.
Let me try and call you, which I'm doing right now, and that be a way we can get you. I'm just looking at my Skype account. It doesn't look like there's anything wrong. Call forwarding with voicemail. All right, let's see what happens. We're calling. Hello, is this...
Hello?
Hello, is this D's 2014? Hello.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear us?
I can indeed.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's D's 2014 here.
Very good, and very nice to meet you. My name's Andy. You're also talking to Grapeviney. What can we do for you?
Were you at the game
hi,
on
guys.
the weekend?
Thanks for the podcast. It's really good.
Oh, pleasure. Grapeviney just asked, were you at the game on the weekend?
I was. It was a great game. I think it was one of the... I'm a 50-year MFC member, I suppose. Maybe not 50, 45. So I think it's one of the best games I've seen, including some of the really good ones in the Danaher era. I was also, would you believe, at the 64 grand final.
Oh, lucky you! You've actually seen a flag.
I have, and I remember sitting in the just near the mezzanine bar in the members' stand with my father. I was a 12-year-old at that stage, and when Compton kicked his goal, about 5 people up to the left-hand side of us was Murray Wiedemann, who was smoking a cigarette, and he was shaking like a leaf.
Sorry, actually, Murray Wiedemann was on telly last night and was involved in the AFL Hall of Fame presentation.
Yeah, he wasn't bad either.
Yes, and we, of course, love Murray now because Sam's developing along in the twos. Did you see the Hall of Fame presentation last night, Dees?
I saw a bit of it. I'm not sort of greatly into that sort of stuff because I think the AFL sort of overplays it a bit. But I think Joe Waitley's very good at that stuff, but some of the other people are not quite so good. But the reason I was ringing you is I think there's some really interesting things happening in Perth at the weekend, and particularly with the loss of Jones and Gawn coming back in, and the fact that they've really done a brilliant job in terms of rationalising the whole process about the rucks when Gawn's gone down and Spencer's gone down. And they've developed that sort of process whereby they basically pinch the ball from the opposition ruckman. I just wonder what's going to happen when Gawn does actually give us champagne feeds, and whether we're going to actually be able to capitalise on that whole process in a way where we don't sacrifice what we've developed over the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, are they going to be able to flick that switch and be able to now palm? I guess it might not be any different now. They'll just know exactly where the ball's going to be rather than have to second guess. Hopefully, that's best case.
And look, it came off last year. Gawn was the All-Australian ruckman for that very reason. And I remember Jones and Viney talking at the end of the year about the silver service that they got on a platter from Max. So it might take Max a little bit of time just to work himself into the game, but I think they'll be able to revert back to probably plan A with relative ease.
I think Max will be fine. I'm just wondering whether the midfielders are going to be able to adjust. And the other thing that worries me, which I posted on the site yesterday, is that with Jones not there, I don't have any great faith in Viney as being a leader. I think he's a bit immature, and that's one of the reasons why I suggested on the site that I think bringing Trengove in might be actually a pretty good move. Because he's a very good, everything you hear about him, he's a very good leader. And certainly if you read the stuff about Casey, he's been a terrific leader for them. The question is whether he can play a game of sufficient quality at Subiaco, which would justify his place in the side. But I think as a bloke and as a player and as a leader, I think he'd be terrific.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't want to see Trengove play well and sort of get back into the team. Whether he's still got it at that level, I think remains to be seen. But I would love him to have the chance and to prove that he can. And I'd love to see that.
My heart says yes, but the head and the guts say it's done, and that it won't happen this week and shouldn't happen this week.
I guess the question is whether he's got the pace.
Yeah, that's the question.
And whether he's still got the level.
Well, I think we know the answer to that question because the pace
5 years ago, which was outstanding. Yeah.
Well, I don't think he
we know
loses
the
skill.
answer to the pace question because it's he's not blistering in the VFL and he's not going to be blistering if he comes up into the AFL. It's a matter of whether whether we can sort of get by without that and whether he brings enough other attributes to the game, because I don't think we can expect him to be tearing up the field. We haven't seen it happen, and it's not going to happen.
No, I've seen him a couple of times at Casey, and he's not an outstanding best in the ground, I must say. He's good, but he's not. He doesn't tear the place up.
No, look, selection will be interesting this week. Goody's made it interesting most weeks, so.
He has, yeah.
Yeah, Trenners is definitely in the mix, that's for sure. Billy Stretch would be another one. Josh Wagner.
Yeah. Well, Wagner's been terrific at Casey, and he's also played pretty well when he's been in the senior side too.
Yep, I'd agree with that. So, I mean, it might well just be in Max and out Nathan. Is there still an injury cloud on Jack Watts? I've got a feeling Jack Watts has to prove himself at training tomorrow before.
He does, but they were making pretty positive noises about him being okay. Unlike some of the others, they said, "Well, he's got to prove, but we think he's going to be okay." So let's hope so. He's been having a terrific season, I think.
Were there injury clouds on anyone else? I heard a whisper something about Hibbard.
The other two I heard was Jetta.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
But he's apparently okay. And Hunt was the other one with his shoulder.
He gets cops at every week, Hunt, and he always seems to come back on.
Well, he landed really awkwardly the other day and went off, and it was thank God he came back on. So,
but apparently Hunt's going to be okay too, as Jetta is. But if you remember, in the last quarter at the weekend, both Hunt and Jetta went off, and they had to go downstairs to get fixed up. But they came back on again too. So.
Yep, it's almost the tale of the walking wounded on the weekend. Fair few players having to go off for treatment.
Okay, guys, nice to talk to you.
Very good.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you for giving us a call. Appreciate it.
Okay, see you later. Bye.
See you. Thank you. Well, that was good.
Yep. Sorry.
What did you say?
I was just going to say, did you catch the Hall of Fame presentation last night?
No, I didn't watch it. All I've seen, and I posted two things to the to the thread about it. I just posted there was a video of Neil Craig talking about Simon Goodwin, which I thought was fantastic. I sort of remember Simon Goodwin as a player, just really the name, but I don't really remember a lot of him playing. And, it was great to see vision of him playing and hearing the stories about, the type of person he is. And then watching, I also posted a video of his speech, which was sort of an interview by Gerard Whateley. And it's just fantastic to hear him talk. And you really get the feeling we're in good hands.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same thing. I thought he spoke really well.
He did.
I think Gerard did a really good job of interviewing all the...
well, I didn't watch the others, but yeah.
All the nominees. It was a really good night, and Gerard does it well. He knows how to tease out stories. But Goody, as we've talked about before, we love listening to him speak. He's a bit of a breath of fresh air. And as you say, just engenders this real confidence that he's got his head around it all. And he's got it all under control. But the thing that really struck me last night was just how much he loves the game. And it wasn't a line. He said, he talked about the smells of the game that he loves. Yes. He loves the smell of the rooms. He loves the smell of, deep heat, Denko rub, which is the smell of the medical room.
Yeah.
And he said he loves the smell of a Sharon, and if there was a Sharon aftershave, he'd be wearing it every day. So you could tell that all of that was straight from the heart. He wasn't looking for laughs, but he just, I think his enthusiasm and love and respect for the game was just on show last night. And as you say, you look at the highlights back at his playing days, and he was a ripper footballer in a really good team. So to think that he's been nominated already, and what he still might have to achieve as a coach, which is phase 2 of his football life. Let's hope that he becomes a legend one day, because he's won 3 or 4 flags as a coach at Melbourne too.
Yeah, every time I hear him speak, I'm just I'm enthralled. You hear a lot of coaches speak, and sometimes you don't get this. I used to fall asleep when I would hear Mark Neild talk, but I definitely don't do that. When Goody's talking. So yeah, we're in good hands. And as you said, let's hope we see him holding up a Premiership Cup one day.
Yeah, I mean, he won 2 as a player. There's not many that have got the double, is there, of playing and coaching? There's a select few. So yeah, watch this space.
Yeah, most definitely do watch this space. Well, we sort of talked about the injuries and changes for this week. Gorney, he's got to come in. They say that he's ready. What do you think of their decision? Obviously, prior to this week, obviously not to bring Spencer in. Is that, if for Spencer, is that career at Melbourne over? What if you can't get a game without Maxi there, what does that say?
It's an interesting question, because all 3 who have done backup duties have all proven themselves. I mean, Watts was the go-to man last year anyway, to do fill-in stints in the ruck, and then we've seen, better than Jack perhaps, both Petters and Tommy Max had a really good crack at it the past couple of weeks. So, does that push Spence back to sort of the back of the pack? I don't think you can. I don't think we could only have one recognised ruckman on the list. That'd be really flirting.
Yeah.
With it all, then if Petters goes out injured and Hogan's injured, then you start to get thin on the ground again. Yeah. So
But we've done it and done it, done it well. But no, I can't see us going that light in terms of rucking duties. But it's certainly interesting, in terms of his future at the club.
Yep, and whether they then, it wasn't so long ago we're talking about needing another key forward / ruck type. So lots happened in the couple of months since Gawn first went down. That's for sure.
So we're pretty sure Gawny's back this week. This isn't
a ruse.
The ruse.
A ruse by Ruse's successor?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
That'd be a real. That'd be really pulling one out of the hat if he wasn't selected and it was all some sort of a trick. But I can't see that being the case.
Yeah. So, and as we said, out. Obviously, Jones is out. Well, we don't know who else is injured, so obviously no one's going to be omitted. You wouldn't think. So yeah, that's it. It's a huge game for us. We talked weeks ago about our home and away hoodoos. We've got two big ones remaining. We haven't won in the West since, saw it today, 2004,
I think.
Round 12 or something, 2004. It's a long time not to win over there, so be great. We went over there. I remember when we won over there. I actually remember that game. There was also a big match. We and I think it sort of started our season that year, our climb. So let's hope we can mirror that.
Yep. Well, we are them for last year anyway, so we should. Let's hope we can fix them up and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah. If we win this week, it sets us up very nicely. We won't count our chickens before they hatch. I've done that a few times this year and have had egg on my face. But 2 big weeks coming up. 2 very tough games. West Coast are always tough over there. The flat track bullies, as they're known as. But then the big game the next week at the G against Sydney. 2 huge matches. Really season-defining, to use a cliche.
We're almost using it every week now, so It's so even that, every week just seems bigger than the last. But I think we've proven ourselves to be quite resilient, so bring it on. Yeah,
look, we've in almost every game this year, we've almost every game we've been down at one point and have been able to come back and change some things around. So yeah, the resilience is there, and you don't want to have to try and come from behind when you're in Perth, where you don't have the crowd behind you. So let's hope we get out on the front foot like we did against the Bulldogs. And, I think a team like West Coast, if you get a jump on them, they'll crumble over there. So let's hope we can do that.
Yep.
Where are you watching the game? You're going to be at home or going out to watch that?
I'm actually going away tomorrow, so I'm going to be away while the game is on. I'm going to be overseas just for the 1 week. So
now you can. Are you going to purchase the AFL? They have an app for overseas. I think you pay for a month, $15 or something.
Well, I'm going to Bali. And don't judge me on that. We're going on a big family holiday because it's both my parents' 70th birthday coming up shortly. So we're going on a big trip to Bali. But I'm imagining I'll be able to. Well, I know that there are lots of sports bars there that show the footy. My only nervousness is I checked out the Australia Channel schedule. And because we're playing on Saturday night, there's another game on Saturday night. which I think is the North and the Bulldogs.
Are they showing
and
that
that's the one showing on the Australia channel.
You're not going to get it then, I don't reckon, because I reckon
nowhere.
I reckon
they've only got access to that channel.
That's right. That's all those sports bars will be doing that. I think your best bet, you got an iPad or something.
Well, I'll have my laptop with me.
Okay. I wonder if you can watch that on a laptop. Yeah, I think you can. If you go to watchafl.com.au, and I can send you a link if you remind me, it's the weekly pass is $19. This isn't an ad for them. We're not being paid by them, but
well, I'll probably have to do that.
Yeah, and that'll ensure that you can watch that. They've got little icons of computers and laptops and tablets and iPhones, so I'm sure you can. Yeah, available on your PC/Mac via the Watch AFL website. That's your best bet.
Somehow, by hook or by crook, I'll be watching, so that might well be the option.
As long as you've got good Wi-Fi connection. You should be all right, unless you're staying in a backpackers hotel.
Yeah, and look, maybe just to finish up the discussion tonight, I noticed Bin Man's just posted in the chat room that our two small bookends should both be in the AA discussion, and that's Jets and Jeffy, and that's probably on the mark, isn't it? Jets should definitely be in the conversation too.
I agree 100% with Jeffy. I also agree 100% with Jets. However, I don't think the wider AFL community would agree with that. Not because they don't think he's good. It's just he's so underrated that I don't like Hibberd doesn't get in that discussion of best recruits of the year. I think Jets is often overlooked by the AFL. He's always talked about, the underrated Melbourne defender, but he's underrated because he's underrated, and I don't think he'll get a look in for All-Australian, even though I think he deserves it.
Yep. Sir Y.U. Little, who I think spends a fair bit of time overseas, has just posted that most of the Asian sports bars also show Foxtel as well. So,
do they get a Foxtel feed? Well, look, I would have in your bet. You can at any stage pay for that Watch AFL, and I'm sure once you pay, that activates your account. So you might wait to see. I'd go down there on the morning and see if they're going to be showing it. Maybe you can slip them a couple of bucks as to get them to switch the channel. But if all else fails, go with the watchafl.com.au and you'll be able to watch whichever game you choose. The old fart mentioned that Spencer is a free agent and may walk for more opportunity. I feel for the guy because he waited so long for his chance and then got injured and then couldn't get his way back in. And if he gets an opportunity elsewhere, then he's got to try and take it.
Yeah, that's even an interesting, could be an interesting dilemma for Spencer, because do I try to go to another club where I might get a shot at being first ruck, or do I hang here and, you never know, like Max could go down on the eve of a final series and all of a sudden you're the man at the business end of the year and you can find yourself rucking in a premiership. So, it's an interesting issue.
I don't know what you do. He's obviously got to look after himself. If he thinks he can get a game elsewhere, then he's got to take it. But that's his decision to make. And I'm glad that I'm just happy Max is back. I saw a picture of him at training. He doesn't quite have the full length beard back, but he's got just as much enough stubble on his face that if his power truly comes from the beard, then
there's enough there to power him on.
Exactly. We talked about that when we spoke to him on the podcast.
He wasn't sure at that stage what he was going to do with it. Maybe the beard's on its way back.
Yeah, I think so. I was just on the Australia Plus TV. I think McQueen in the chat rooms mentioned Australia Network. That no longer
That's what
exists.
I meant before.
Yeah, that no longer exists. It's actually called Australia Plus.
Yes.
And it looks like they are showing the Western Bulldogs versus North Melbourne game. So unless they are showing...
I got a feeling that the bars in Bali, that there are so many Australians there, that there will be Foxtel on tap everywhere.
Yeah. So they have Foxtel in there. I wouldn't have thought that, but obviously they do.
Yeah, well, it's all on sort of satellite, so it's easy enough to get, I think. But I don't know a lot about these things. But you can be sure I'll have worked it out by game time. So
does that mean you won't be back here by next Wednesday? I'm assuming.
I won't. No, I'm back here next Thursday. Actually,
you're back next Thursday.
Specifically made sure that my flight home was in time for Friday night's game. So,
okay.
And got to say, I was quite pleased when I saw that the family getaway didn't clash with a Melbourne-based game anyway. That it would have been one I would have been watching on TV anyway. So,
well, I'm going to in a couple of weeks. I'm off to Fiji, and we worked it out. I only miss one game. I'm missing the Carlton game, which is actually a game I really enjoy going to, particularly when we're winning, because a lot of my mates are Carlton supporters. So I'm going to miss that one, but I will be watching it. I will be there in spirit.
How are we? Just the two hosts of the podcast just travelling the world casually, mid-season?
Yes. Well, we're not doing it in September. I've made sure there are no plans September, and hopefully...
I generally don't like going away during the year.
Yeah, I don't, but like you, we're also doing a family trip, so I sort of had no choice. But
McQueen wants to know which one of us has the jingle going in the background. Have you got a jingle going at your place?
I
don't have any kids, so there shouldn't be a jingle.
I don't know where that sound's coming from, unless that is... No, I thought maybe my iTunes was still playing just a loop of...
Maybe we're
music.
still connected to Sophie and it's her 3-year-old.
No, I can't. No, because that phone's not even connected to the thing anymore. I don't know. I can actually hear something, but I don't know where it's coming from. It's not coming from my computer, so unless it's coming from the background at your place, I don't know. No, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. Is that all for today? Anything else? Any other pressing issues that need to be discussed?
No, I think we've more than covered it. We're coming up to the 2-hour mark, so
I think
we've probably said enough.
We'd have. We've said it all. I just want to thank once again Sophie for joining us.
Yep.
It gave us a great insight into the cheer squad, and I mean, think of the amount of work and effort and everything and the money that and the time that these guys give to the club, and they give a lot more than us rank and file supporters that do, that don't do any of that stuff.
Unsung heroes.
Yeah, so kudos to Sophie and the other guys in the Demon Army, and all, just even just the guys that sit behind the goals and cheer and hold up a flag or a pom-pom. Or do they still have the floggers at the thing? I know they're not allowed to
still have
them.
the floggers.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's great. They really do a lot, and I got to watch them first. Right on top of them this week, so they do a fantastic job. Thanks Sophie for coming on and giving us a little insight into what goes on match day. So thank you very much for joining us. And I know she had to run off and deal with a 3-year-old, but thank you very much for coming on and probably bringing in quite a number of listeners from the Demon Army. And I hope you can come back and join us next week and every week. We are live every week on Wednesday. Probably in 2 weeks we might not be. I'm still trying to figure that one out. I might be able to... I'm bringing my laptop. I might sneak a microphone in, I might be able to connect to you via Skype and get us on the air. We might be able to even do if it's not live, then we might be able to do just a recorded podcast, maybe a shorter one, and just post it up there. But if not, we might take a break for a week or two. Next week I might get a special guest in. I'm trying to coax Whispering Jack out of retirement, out of radio retirement, so we'll see.
He's proving to be elusive at the moment.
He claims every week that he's going out for dinner, and I've even asked him just to call in and say hi, and we'll get him on there. I've told him he's committed to me for next week, so we might have a special guest next week, Whispering Jack. You'll get to hear the voice of the poster, one of our main writers on Demonland, and has been for the past 17 years. So look forward to that.
Yep.
You can listen to us every week, demonland.com/podcast. Join us for the live chats for our live programs if you're listening to this. Usually you can call in. I've got to find out what's happening with our phone line. I called back and it went straight to message bank. There are no settings in Skype that are saying it should do that, so might have to reinstall Skype. That's technology for you. All right, thank you all for listening. Let's go out. Let's end the show with
Jack Watts.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You know what I played before the game? I played. You know how they do all the goals from the game. I just was playing the audio from that. So, but yeah, let's go with Jack Watts. You can't go wrong with Jack.
It's worth
Watts.
Another listen.
Yeah. So as we go out, have a listen to Jack Watts and relive the glory of the Queen's birthday match. My name is Andy. That was Grapeviney as well. We'll see you. Well, Grapeviney won't see you next week, but I will. Go D's.
Would have a real chance. Adams receives a hand pass. He loops it over the top. Didn't quite hit the target. Reprieve for Melbourne. Oscar McDonald, a little runner up towards the southern wing, and Harms is first there. Watts running into space for him at half forward. Will run onto a nicely bouncing ball outside 50. Crosses 50. Has a bounce on tired legs. Closes to 30 and kicks the goal. And it looks as though the Demons have the Queen's birthday prize. Jack Watts, what a touch of synergy for Jack Watts. From 2009 to 2017, and today he might have got the Demons over the line. They lead by 11 points at the 28-minute mark. Would have a real chance. Adams receives a hand pass.
Well, there it was. And now we'll go out with our theme song. See you next week.